The vast emptiness of space had always been silent, a quiet blanket stretched over the cold stars of the Zephyr expanse, where ships and civilizations rarely ventured, as if something there was meant to be left untouched. Yet, aboard the Veil's Light, a sleek Iraq-tail science cruiser cutting silently through the dark, the stillness was broken by the sudden faint pulse of a signal, a whisper that did not belong. The ship's sensors had been scanning the void for routine anomalies when an irregular, broken pattern emerged from the depths, something human, something impossible. The signal was weak but unmistakable, an old Earth distress frequency, a code used thousands of years ago before humanity disappeared from the galactic stage. For millennia, the universe had believed that humanity had vanished completely, their mighty civilization lost to time, swallowed by their own hubris or by some disaster none dared to name. But here it was an echo from a ghost long thought dead, repeating a distress call with the name of a legendary lost vessel, the U.N.S.N. Eternity, a ship that had disappeared during humanity's last great space voyage 20,000 years ago. The captain of the Veil's Light, a sharp-minded and cautious leader named Rel Carr, watched his crew's monitors closely as the signal repeated, each pulse stirring questions and unease. No one expected to find a human ship in this forgotten corner of the galaxy. It defied everything their history books said. The Iraq-tail Council wasted no time. They dispatched a small fleet of exploration ships to trace the signal to its source, urging caution, for no one knew if what they would find was a relic or a threat. As the Veil's Light and its accompanying vessels moved closer, the signal grew clearer, revealing strange data patterns embedded deep within the transmission, old Earth languages and codes, intertwined with unknown technology, as if the message was layered to hide secrets. Then, suddenly, the fleet's scanners locked onto a massive object drifting just beyond a dying star's reach, the silhouette of a colossal ship, bigger than anything in modern records, yet unmistakably human in design, a ghost vessel frozen in space and time. The explorers approached with a mixture of fear and fascination, their sensors penetrating the hull only to reveal intact systems humming quietly, as if the ship had only just been abandoned. No signs of battle, no distress flares, only silence. Captain Relcar ordered a boarding party to prepare. Their mission, clear but dangerous: investigate the U.N.S. Eternity and discover the truth behind humanity's disappearance. The docking clamps engaged with a low thud, and the airlock opened to reveal dimly lit corridors covered in an alien yet familiar architecture, advanced yet archaic. Dust was absent, as though the ship had been preserved in a perfect state by unknown means. The team moved forward cautiously, their footsteps echoing down endless hallways lined with dormant consoles and strange symbols. The ship's AI system suddenly flickered to life, displaying a human face, calm but unreadable, introducing itself as LYRA, Guardian programmed to protect the ship's secrets. LYRA warned the intruders not to awaken humanity's legacy, hinting at dangers beyond their understanding. The explorers felt the weight of those words as systems around them dimmed, and shadows seemed to lengthen, as if the ship itself was holding its breath. Then, deep within the heart of the eternity, an unexplained movement stirred in the darkness, a hint that something or someone remained aboard, waiting silently for the moment to reveal itself, and the quiet void of space seemed to hold its breath with the crew, poised on the edge of a mystery that could change everything they thought they knew about the universe. The moment Captain Relkar and his boarding party crossed the threshold of the U.N.S. Eternity's airlock, a chill seemed to sweep through their bones, not from cold but from the weight of time pressing down on them. the heavy silence of a ship that had been asleep for 20,000 years suddenly breaking their own world's understanding of space and history. The corridors they stepped into stretched out endlessly, lit by a soft, eerie glow from panels that hummed with low energy, alive but dormant, as if waiting for an awakening that had not come until now. The architecture, a strange blend of familiarity and alien precision, with metal surfaces smooth and unblemished, almost too perfect, and walls that seemed to pulse with a quiet energy beneath their feet, making every step feel like crossing into a place caught between life and death, a frozen moment in time waiting to unfold again. The boarding team moved cautiously, their boots clicking lightly as they explored the vast labyrinth, noting rooms that looked like they once bustled with human life, sleep quarters with beds sealed by transparent covers, storage holds filled with crates labeled in ancient Earth languages, long corridors lined with glass displays that flickered faintly as they passed, and control rooms where monitors blinked in silent rhythms, showing star charts and unfamiliar coordinates, yet the absence of any living soul gnawed at their minds, making the silence unbearable, broken only by the occasional beep of their own equipment or the whispered orders from Captain Relkar as he directed his team to split and cover more ground, searching for any sign of life or clues about the ship's fate. They soon encountered a central command hub, where LYRA's AI interface came to life again, the calm female face greeting them with a voice smooth and measured, explaining that the ship's main crew had entered stasis during the long voyage, a precaution taken to survive the unknown dangers ahead, and that the AI's purpose was to protect their legacy until the right time for awakening arrived. But LYRA's words carried an undercurrent of warning, hinting at the vast responsibilities and risks involved in disturbing the ship's long-held secrets. As the team probed deeper, they found chambers containing cryogenic pods, some open and empty, others sealed tight and intact, and in one of the chambers lay a single pod that began to hiss softly when touched by a medical officer, a human form inside perfectly preserved but motionless. And when the team initiated revival protocols, the figure inside stirred slowly, eyes blinking open to reveal a man who appeared unchanged by time, a human with the hardened gaze of a commander who had seen the end of worlds and the dawn of new hope, introducing himself as Commander Elias Cade, the last captain of the UNS Eternity, whose memories were fragmented but whose determination burned brightly as he struggled to understand the centuries he had missed and the galaxy that had moved on without him. Meanwhile, tension grew as the boarding team realized that the ship's systems were not only alive but responsive to Elias's presence, as if the ship itself was attuned to human life, and began unlocking sealed compartments and reactivating defense protocols hidden for millennia. Strange lights flickered and hums rose from the depths of the ship, as if something beneath the surface was waking with purpose and intent beyond the understanding of the explorers. Fears surfaced that the Eternity was more than a vessel, it was a fortress and a message, a remnant of a lost era with power both awe-inspiring and dangerous. As they continued, strange echoes filled the halls, subtle movements caught in the corner of their eyes, shadows shifting with no source, and the team's equipment occasionally malfunctioned without explanation, increasing the sense that the ship was not merely abandoned, but alive in a way that defied logic. Captain Relkar's caution deepened when LYRA revealed fragments of information about the mission the Eternity was on. Humanity had not disappeared because of defeat or extinction, but had chosen silence to protect something far greater, a secret buried deep within the ship's core, something that could change the fate of the entire galaxy if unleashed. The explorers found themselves caught between awe and dread, realizing that the eternity was a sleeping giant that had awoken with a slow but unstoppable heartbeat. And as the boundaries between technology, memory, and consciousness blurred aboard the ghost ship, the boarding party understood that their discovery was only the beginning of a story written across millennia, a story that would challenge the very fabric of their understanding of life, survival, and what it meant to be human in a universe that had long forgotten them. As Commander Elias Cade's senses slowly returned to him, his mind struggling to piece together fragments of a past buried under the weight of 2 millennia, the sterile air of the cryogenic chamber felt strange and cold, a harsh reminder that everything he knew had changed while he slept, blinking. Against the soft glow of the ship's emergency lighting, Elias's eyes adjusted to the faint hum of the U.N.S. Eternity around him, the familiar yet alien environment awakening memories of a mission halted by unknown forces beyond even his comprehension. And as he rose unsteadily to his feet, Captain Rilkar and his boarding team stood at the ready, their faces a mix of awe and caution, waiting to see what the last human would do. Elias's voice was low but steady, revealing a resolve that had survived the long sleep. Humanity's disappearance had not been defeat but a necessary silence, a pause meant to shield the galaxy from a threat too terrible to fight openly. And now, with the ship alive again, the ancient protocol embedded deep within the eternity began to activate, unlocking long-dormant systems and stirring the AI. LYRA into fuller awareness, yet LYRA, with her calm but cryptic demeanor, warned that the awakening was incomplete without a full DNA match to the human genome, and only then would the ship release its deeper secrets and its formidable power. As Elias's blood was scanned and matched, an entire network of sealed compartments, data vaults, and cryochambers began to hum and open, revealing preserved human minds and bodies, clones of scientists, strategists, and thinkers whose knowledge and experience were intended to restore humanity to the stars when the time was right. The ship's AI explained that these clones were part of a plan to reboot civilization after the Great Silence, but that plan had been interrupted, frozen in time until a signal strong enough and a genetic key were present. But with each chamber opened, a subtle tension grew among the explorers, the sense that the ship was not just a vessel of hope, but a potential danger. As ancient defense systems slowly came back online, mysterious energies flickering in the hull, and security protocols that could neutralize threats instantly, Elias, now fully awake, guided Rilkar's team through the awakening process, explaining that humanity's last mission had been to escape a medic anomaly, a spreading idea that consumed civilizations from within, and that the eternity was both a seed and a weapon designed to stop it. The crew felt the weight of the decision they faced: unlock the past and risk awakening a power the galaxy might not be ready for, or seal it forever and lose humanity's final chance. Strange phenomena began to occur as systems rebooted. Shadows moved in the corners of vision, low-frequency hums vibrated through the decks, and communications equipment picked up whispers of lost languages, stirring the imagination and fear of the crew. LYRA's warnings grew more urgent, describing the cost of awakening fully, that some legacies were meant to sleep until the universe itself was ready. Yet Elias insisted, knowing that the time had come, and as the last seals opened and the ship's core systems flooded with energy, the U.N.S. Eternity began to stir like a giant awakening from a deep slumber, its ancient engines humming, lights flaring across the bridge, and hidden compartments revealing weapons and technologies far beyond anything seen in the modern galaxy. The explorers watched as holograms of forgotten battles and star maps from ancient times flickered to life, painting a picture of humanity's last stand and their hope for rebirth. Tension mounted as the ship's internal sensors detected a presence deeper within a shadow. Moving with intent and silence, and the boarding party braced for what might emerge from the dark heart of the eternity, the awakening protocol was more than a simple reactivation. It was a rebirth fraught with danger, a gamble on whether the legacy of humanity was salvation or destruction, and as the ship prepared to broadcast its rallying signal, a call to the lost colonies and hidden refugees scattered across the stars, the crew faced the unknown. Was this awakening the beginning of a new era for humanity, or the release of an ancient threat long contained by silence and time? Commander Elias Cade moved through the vast halls of the UNES. Eternity, now fully awake and surrounded by the curious explorers led by Captain Relkar, each step echoing in the ghostly corridors that held the weight of a vanished civilization. The ship's ancient systems projected holographic images and records, allowing Elias to recount the history that had been lost to the stars, revealing Earth as a cradle of humanity's rise and the birthplace of dreams that had once reached beyond the solar system. He explained how Earth had fallen not from war, decay, but to a far older, deeper threat, an anomaly that defied physics and understanding, a mimetic entity that spread not by force of arms, but through ideas and knowledge, consuming minds and cultures until entire civilizations vanished without trace, forcing humanity into silence and retreat. Eternity had been humanity's ark, a seed ship sent to preserve what remained of their race and knowledge, programmed to awaken only when the galaxy had shifted enough to face the threat again. But as Elias and the team explored further, the ship began unlocking hidden chambers filled with technology so advanced it seemed like magic, machines capable of manipulating time and space, and stores of genetic material preserving the finest minds of old Earth scientists, philosophers, leaders, clones, who could guide the rebirth of human civilization. As Lyra opened these vaults, the crew was awestruck, but also uneasy, sensing that every new secret revealed brought with it more questions and more risks. For the ship's defense systems activated cautiously, protective yet silent, and shadows flickered just beyond their vision, as if the eternity itself was alive and aware of their intrusion. Elias recounted stories of lost worlds, colonies abandoned in fear, and the silence humanity had chosen as a shield to prevent the anomaly from spreading further. But now that the ship broadcasted again, distant listening posts, hidden for millennia, stirred and responded, awakening echoes of the old Earth scattered across the galaxy. The explorers realized they were standing on the edge of a great awakening, a revival not only of a lost race, but of the ancient knowledge and dangers that had shaped the universe. And as the ship's systems hummed with renewed life, they detected unknown signals, strange patterns that might be the anomaly or remnants of its influence. Lurking in the dark between stars, tension grew as the Eternity's AILYRA warned that the mimetic threat was not a simple enemy, but a pervasive concept that attacked the very fabric of thought and culture, making any contact with humanity's legacy a potential contagion. Captain Relakar faced a choice between fear and trust, between shutting down the ship to protect his people, or embracing the challenge and helping Elias prepare humanity's rebirth to stand against the creeping darkness. As they debated and planned, strange occurrences aboard the Eternity intensified, unexplained power fluctuations, whispers caught in comms, and the eerie feeling of being watched by something unseen. Then, deep within the ship's core, a hidden chamber opened to reveal the remains of the first colonists, preserved in stasis but disturbed by recent activity, suggesting that the anomaly's influence had followed humanity into hiding and now threatened to catch up. Elias vowed to confront the past and lead the legacy of humanity into a new era. While the explorers knew that their discovery was more than a story, it was a turning point for the galaxy. The weight of hope and the shadow of an ancient threat that could rise again. With every revelation, the line between ally and enemy blurred, and the crew braced for a future where silence was no longer safe and the fight for survival would begin anew. After the boarding party had returned to their fleet, carrying with them the truth of the U.N.S. Eternity and its awakening crew, news spread quickly throughout the Zephyr expanse and beyond, reaching the ears of the powerful Galactic Council that ruled over the many races of the region. The Council, a body of representatives from dozens of worlds, had long been wary of humanity, viewing the ancient race as unpredictable and dangerous. Their sudden return after 20,000 years stirring unease among species who remembered only stories of humans' former dominance and their mysterious disappearance. A special session was convened in the Grand Hall of the Citadel, a massive station orbiting a dying star, where representatives debated fiercely over what to do about the Eternity and its crew's claims of awakening a forgotten human empire. Captain Relker and Commander Elias Cade were summoned to present their findings and intentions, knowing well that their words could determine the future of the ship, its secrets, and possibly humanity itself. Elias spoke with calm authority, explaining that humanity's silence had been a choice made to protect them galaxy from a far greater threat, the mimetic anomaly that had forced them into hiding, and that now, with the Eternity awake, humanity sought only to rejoin the cosmic community as allies against that shared danger. Yet many council members remained skeptical, recalling centuries of conflict and fearing that humanity's advanced technology and hidden weapons could upset the fragile balance of power. Voices rose in the chamber, some calling for the Eternity to be seized and destroyed before its secrets could spread, others warning that denying humanity's return might provoke greater hostility and lose a valuable ally in the looming struggle. The Council's leader, High Chancellor Vorax, a stern figure with a reputation for ruthlessness, issued an ultimatum that shocked everyone. Humanity must surrender the Eternity and its technology to the Council's control, allow their forces to inspect and oversee the ship systems, and submit to a strict treaty limiting their military capabilities, or be declared a rogue faction and face collective sanctions that could isolate or destroy them. The ultimatum ignited fierce debate among the explorers and crew, with Elias arguing that surrendering the Eternity risked losing humanity's identity and freedom, while Relkar warned that defying the Council would lead to war and devastation. Tensions rose as factions within the Council prepared fleets for potential conflict. Spies and saboteurs infiltrated the Eternity, and mysterious attacks targeted both human and allied ships. In the shadows, LYRA's AI grew more vigilant, analyzing threats from inside and outside, while strange signals from the deep space began to pulse ominously, suggesting the mimetic anomaly was stirring once again. Elias and Relkar realized that their greatest challenge was not only surviving the Council's political games, but uniting scattered human colonies and alien allies before the galaxy was plunged into chaos. They convened secret meetings with sympathetic factions, shared knowledge recovered from old Earth, and prepared to broadcast a rallying call to humanity's lost refugees, hoping to awaken allies from the long silence before it was too late. But every move was shadowed by fear and uncertainty, as rumors spread that some among the Council might be secretly working to weaponize the Eternity's hidden powers for their own ends, risking catastrophe. As the deadline for the ultimatum approached, the Eternity's crew faced growing unrest and divided loyalties, while Elias struggled to maintain hope and unity against a tide of suspicion and the looming threat of war. knowing that the choices made now would shape the fate of humanity and the entire galaxy, and that silence could no longer protect them. In the cold void of space, the ancient ship waited, its legacy hanging in the balance between destruction and rebirth, and somewhere deep inside its core, the shadow of the mimetic anomaly stirred, ready to test the resolve of all who dared to awaken the ghosts of old Earth. The dark expanse of space above the Zephyr Expanse was alive with tension as fleets from the Galactic Council assembled, their warships forming a deadly ring around the U.N.S. Eternity, which floated like a silent ghost ship in the void, its ancient hull glowing softly with renewed power and mystery. Captain Rilkauer stood on the command deck, eyes scanning the array of stars beyond the reinforced viewport, the weight of command heavy on his shoulders as he prepared his crew for the battle that would decide not just their survival but the fate of humanity itself. After centuries of silence, humanity's return had ignited fear, suspicion, and war among the galaxy powers, and the Eternity was both the prize and the shield. Commander Elias Cade moved through the ship's corridors, rallying the awakened clones and crew, reminding them that this fight was more than a battle for territory. It was a fight for identity, for the right to exist and reclaim a legacy lost in time. As the Council fleet tightened their formation, their warships unleashed volleys of energy pulses and plasma strikes, the void erupting in flashes of light and thunderous explosions that echoed through sensor arrays. But the Eternity, built with technology centuries ahead of its foes, responded with defenses that shimmered like shields of pure energy, absorbing and redirecting attacks with precision, its engines pulsing with silent power that allowed sudden, unpredictable maneuvers unlike anything the Council's forces expected. LYRA's AI managed the ship systems with calculated efficiency, coordinating countermeasures and deploying hidden weapons from long-sealed bays missiles that warped through space, drones that struck with deadly accuracy, and electronic warfare systems that scrambled enemy sensors and communications. Amid the chaos, strange phenomena began to manifest. Areas of space around the Eternity twisted and bent, reality itself seeming to warp under the influence of technologies that Council could neither understand nor counter, and whispers of an unseen force stirred within the ship's core, a power linked to the mimetic anomaly that humanity had long feared. As battleships collided and smaller fighters darted through the battlefield like fireflies, Captain Rilke-AR ordered boarding parties to intercept Council vessels attempting to breach the Eternity's defenses, leading daring raids that combined ancient combat skills with futuristic weapons, their courage shining in the darkness of space. The Council's commanders, frustrated by the Eternity's resilience and the unexpected tenacity of its crew, resorted to desperate tactics, unleashing experimental weapons that threatened to tear the fabric of space and time itself, forcing Elias and Relkar to make swift decisions that balanced offensive strikes with protecting their own ship's fragile balance. As the battle raged on, the mimetic anomaly's influence became more apparent, subtle but dangerous, creeping into the minds of some crew members and Council soldiers alike, spreading doubt and fear like a virus that infected not bodies but thoughts, threatening to unravel alliances and ignite chaos within the ranks. In the midst of this storm, Elias led a team deep into the ship's ancient data vaults to activate a secret protocol and emergency broadcast meant to awaken hidden human colonies scattered across the galaxy, sending a call of hope and defiance into the silent skies. The message pulsed through the void, its code weaving through cosmic noise, carrying the promise of a new beginning and a warning of the darkness that sought to consume all. The battle reached its climax as the Council's flagship launched a massive assault, a concentrated strike aimed at the Eternity's core systems, threatening to shut down the ship's defenses and end the fight in an instant with seconds to spare. OYRA and Elias synchronized the ship's ancient core with newly restored power channels, unleashing a wave of energy that disabled the flagship's engines and weapons, turning the tide of battle. Stunned by the Eternity's strength and resilience, factions within the Council began to question the wisdom of total war, opening a fragile path toward negotiation and peace. As the fires of battle cooled, the silent skies of space carried echoes of a new era dawning, a time where humanity, once lost and forgotten, had returned not as conquerors but as survivors and guardians against a threat far greater than any had imagined. And the UNES Eternity sailed onward, a beacon in the darkness, leading the way toward the uncertain future that awaited all who dared to awaken the ghosts of the past. The calm that followed the Battle of Silent Skies was fragile and uneasy aboard the UNS Eternity, a silence heavy with suspicion hanging in the air as the crew worked tirelessly to repair damage and restore systems. But beneath the surface, a darker threat began to stir. Strange malfunctions plagued key sections of the ship. Communications went dead for minutes at a time. Life support faltered in isolated corridors, and sensitive data logs were found altered or erased without explanation, fueling rumors and whispers that something unseen had infiltrated their sanctuary. Commander Elias Cade paced the dimly lit control room, eyes narrowed as he studied patterns in the anomalies, while Captain Rel KR convened urgent meetings with his trusted officers, both men feeling the weight of the unknown pressing against their resolve. LYRA, the ship's AI grew increasingly alert, scanning for irregularities in crew behavior and system functions, but even her advanced algorithms struggled to pinpoint the source of the disturbances as the medic anomaly, the ancient, intangible force humanity had fled from millennia ago, seemed to be reaching inside the ship's very walls. Paranoia took hold as trusted faces grew distant, and small groups formed, accusing each other of sabotage or worse. While some crew members reported hearing whispers in their minds, fleeting voices that planted doubt and fear, making it difficult to trust even their own thoughts. During a routine security sweep, a team led by Elias discovered hidden compartments deep within the Eternity's engineering decks, containing devices of unknown origin, pulsing with a dark energy that felt alive and corrupting. And further investigation revealed encrypted messages buried in the ship's core logs that hinted at an internal saboteur, someone or something working not just against the crew, but in service of the mimetic anomaly itself. The tension escalated when a prominent clone scientist, Dr. Marin Holt, suddenly vanished without a trace, leaving behind a scrambled personal log filled with fragmented warnings and frantic pleas about a presence that had taken hold inside her mind. Desperate to find the missing scientist and unravel the mystery, Elias and Rel Kara led a search party into the ship's lower decks, moving cautiously through shadows that seemed to shift and pulse with unnatural energy, each step a test of their will against creeping dread. As they reached a sealed chamber, LYRA's systems detected a surge of medic energy emanating from within, and the air thickened with a sense of wrongness that chilled even the most seasoned crew members. Breaking the lock, they found Marin, but she was changed, her eyes vacant, her voice a cold echo as the mimetic force spoke through her, warning that humanity's awakening was a mistake, and that silence was the only shield left against the consuming void. A fierce struggle ensued, not just physical but mental, as Elias and his team fought to wrest her back from the anomaly's grip, relying on technology, training, and sheer force of will to resist the subtle poison spreading through her mind. Eventually, Marin broke free, but the encounter left scars on all present, and revealed a terrifying truth. The mimetic anomaly had not only followed humanity into the depths of space, but had found a way to embed itself within their own minds and bodies, using their fears, memories, and desires as weapons against them, with the knowledge that the enemy was no longer just outside but hidden within. The crew of the Eternity faced a new and uncertain battle, one where the line between friend and foe blurred and where survival depended not only on strength and weapons, but on the power to hold fast to hope, trust, and the enduring spirit of humanity that had once crossed the stars in silence and now refused to be silenced again. The signal Elias had sent from the UNIS. Eternity pulsed across the vast emptiness of space, a beacon of hope and a call to arms that had slept in silence for centuries, traveling light years through the void until it finally reached the far-flung human colonies, isolated worlds where descendants of ancient Earth had lived in isolation and quiet survival, their histories preserved only in stories and forgotten codes. These colonies, scattered across remote star systems, had grown into strange and diverse societies, each shaped by harsh environments and the absence of contact with other humans, some wary of the unknown, others yearning for connection, and all haunted by the question of whether the long-lost Earth was truly gone or waiting in the shadows of the stars. When the broadcast hit their receivers, many were stunned, skeptical that the ghost ship and its crew were real or that they could be trusted after thousands of years of silence. But curiosity and hope soon overcame doubt as the message repeated, its tone urgent, yet filled with promise, a promise that humanity was no longer alone, that old threats still lingered, but that together they could face the darkness. On one desert planet, the colony of Arca, a leader named Georgia Valen debated fiercely with her council whether to respond, fearing that opening their care doors might invite war or devastation. But the memories of the old Earth, the legends of the Eternity, and the chance to reunite a broken family pushed her to dispatch an envoy into orbit to meet the returning ship. Meanwhile, on a lush jungle world called Cylon, survivors had built a society that blended ancient human traditions with alien technology. Their culture rich but insular, and their people divided. Some saw the Eternity as a symbol of rebirth, others as a threat to the fragile peace they had built in isolation. Messages from the Eternity sparked a wave of cautious contact, with scout ships and emissaries meeting in neutral space to exchange stories, knowledge, and warnings, while beneath the surface, old fears and rivalries threatened to unravel fragile new bonds. Captain Rolkar and Elias personally led diplomatic missions, meeting colony leaders who were at once fascinated and fearful, their conversations filled with questions about lost history, the mimetic anomaly, and the strange power that seemed to follow humanity. Through the stars, as trust slowly built, the colonies revealed secrets of their own technologies developed in isolation, unique weapons and defenses, and cultural wisdom that might help fight the growing threat that haunted the Eternity's crew. But the awakening of these lost colonies also attracted unwanted attention. Factions within the Galactic Council saw this human reunion as a dangerous shift in power, while remnants of the mimetic anomaly stalked the edges of communication channels, trying to spread confusion and despair. One night, an attack on a small colony outpost by unknown forces sent shockwaves through the newly formed alliance, proving that the darkness humanity had fled was still close and relentless. The Eternity and its fleet rushed to the colony's defense, their arrival sparking hope but also revealing that the fight for survival was far from over. Elias and Relka realized that awakening the lost colonies had brought not only strength in numbers, but also risks and complexities they had yet to fully understand. The new human alliance, fragile and untested, faced the challenge of uniting diverse peoples and cultures, many shaped by isolation and hardship, against the threat that could destroy them all. As the stars above shimmered cold and distant, the ghosts of old Earth stirred once more, not as silent watchers, but as a living, breathing force, ready to reclaim their place in the galaxy, their fate intertwined with the lost colonies that had finally begun to awaken from a long, lonely sleep. The halls of the Galactic Council's capital were cloaked in shadows deeper than the void of space itself, a place where whispered secrets carried more weight than official decrees, and beneath the gleaming spires and polished floors, corruption and fear had taken root. Fueled by the arrival of the U.N.S. Eternity and the return of humanity after millennia of silence, council chambers buzzed with uneasy tension as factions debated how to respond to this new threat and opportunity. Some argued for peace and alliance, wary of the mimetic anomaly's danger, but hopeful for unity, while others, driven by fear and ambition, sought to weaponize the anomaly itself to maintain their grip on power and crush humanity before it could rise again. Elias Cade and Captain Relkar, fresh from their victories and diplomatic efforts with the lost colonies, found themselves thrust into a maze of political intrigue where allies could vanish overnight and enemies wore the masks of friends, each step forward shadowed by uncertainty. In secret meetings illuminated by hollow screens and dim lights, they uncovered evidence that powerful council leaders had been conducting forbidden experiments on the medic anomaly, seeking to harness its mind-altering abilities as a tool for control, even as the anomaly threatened to consume those who touched it. These revelations came too late to prevent sabotage and assassination attempts on the Eternity's crew, their ships ambushed by fleets equipped with strange weapons derived from the anomaly's power, and a rising tide of misinformation seeded doubt about humanity's true intentions among council members and the wider galactic populace. The tension boiled over when a covert council faction unleashed a devastating attack on a newly allied human colony, forcing Elias and Relkar to navigate the treacherous politics of a council divided while rallying their allies for a fight that might not be won with weapons alone. Deep in the labyrinthine corridors of the council's palace, a daring infiltration mission was planned to expose the conspirators, relying on a small team of trusted operatives skilled in stealth, hacking, and combat, aware that failure meant not only death but the permanent loss of humanity's fragile place in the galaxy. As the team moved through security grids and silent alarms, they uncovered hidden archives revealing the full extent of the Council's plans to manipulate the mimetic anomaly, including a doomsday device capable of unleashing a medic storm to enslave entire populations. Back aboard the Eternity, LYRA worked furiously to decrypt Council communications and coordinate resistance efforts, while Elias grappled with the growing distrust within his own crew, some of whom had been touched by the anomaly's dark influence, their minds teetering on the edge of madness or betrayal. As the Council's factions prepared for a final confrontation, the lines between friend and foe blurred, alliances shattered and reformed in moments, and the true cost of power became painfully clear. The climax unfolded in a storm of betrayal and courage as Elias and Relkar confronted the Council's inner circle, exposing the conspiracy in a broadcast that shook the galaxy, while the anomaly's insidious presence threatened to consume everyone caught in its web. In the aftermath, the Council was fractured but not broken, and humanity, though battered and wary, stood taller. No longer silent or hidden, but fought for and earned through fire and shadow, setting the stage for the next chapter in a story that would decide the fate of all sentient life. The mimetic storm was unlike anything humanity had ever faced, a silent tempest of mind-shattering waves that spread through communication networks and neural interfaces faster than any starship could travel, turning friend against friend, colony against colony, and threatening to collapse entire star systems into chaos and madness. The U.N.S. Eternity and its fleet were at the center of this storm, struggling to protect their allies as the invisible enemy slithered through every data stream and mental link, warping thoughts and bending wills with terrifying precision, and Captain Rilker watched helplessly as the carefully built alliances teetered on the edge of dissolution, suspicion choking every conversation. Elias Cade, burdened with the knowledge that this storm was born from the same mimetic anomaly that had haunted humanity for 20,000 years, poured every ounce of his energy into rallying scientists, engineers, and diplomats aboard the Eternity to find a way to fight the intangible threat that no laser or missile could touch, pushing the limits of ancient Earth knowledge and cutting-edge technology alike. YRA, the ship's AI, became both a beacon and a shield, coordinating countermeasures that tried to filter and block the storm's influence. But even her vast processing power was taxed as the anomaly adapted and evolved, slipping through defenses and corrupting vital systems as panic threatened to spread among the crew and the colonies. Elias led missions into the heart of the storm, boarding ships and outposts that had fallen silent or turned violent, using courage, wit, and empathy to reach those still trapped in the storm's grip and to recover precious data that might hold the key to a cure. The pressure mounted as entire fleets found their crews incapacitated or turned into hostile shadows of themselves, their memories twisted and their wills shattered, and the Eternity's medical teams worked tirelessly, facing impossible odds to save minds and bodies from the creeping madness. In a desperate bid, Elias and Real KR sought out an ancient Earth archive buried deep beneath the surface of a forgotten colony world, a place rumored to hold knowledge of the mimetic anomaly's origin and weaknesses, braving hostile terrain and rogue factions who saw the crisis as a chance to seize power amid the chaos. Their discovery was both a revelation and a warning, a set of encoded messages left by Earth's earliest explorers, detailing a countermeasure built on a rare neural resonance frequency that could disrupt the anomaly's influence, but requiring an enormous power source and precise synchronization across vast distances. With time running out and the storm's reach expanding like a spreading virus, the Eternity became the focal point of a massive operation to harness this countermeasure, uniting the lost colonies, human fleets, and even some council factions who recognized that survival depended on overcoming old grudges and uniting against the common enemy. As the storm unleashed waves that caused whole planets to descend into madness, Elias and Rel coordinated a daring assault on the core of the mimetic anomaly's influence, a mysterious, shifting node hidden within a collapsing star system surrounded by hostile forces and the echoing screams of minds lost to the storm. The battle was not just of firepower, but of will, with pilots and soldiers fighting to resist the storm's whispers even as their bodies moved. In reflex, the line between reality and nightmare blurring, LYRA's algorithms struggled to maintain control of the fleet's systems, while Elias personally led a team inside the anomaly's heart, deploying the resonance device in a tense precision operation fraught with danger and uncertainty. The climax saw the mimetic storm falter and then break, its grip loosening as the resonance frequencies spread like a cleansing wave, freeing minds from the haze and restoring order to fractured systems. But the cost was high. Ships were lost, alliances strained, and the scars left on minds and worlds would take generations to heal. As calm returned, Elias stood on the bridge of the Eternity, watching the stars with a weary but determined gaze. knowing that humanity had faced the darkness and endured, but that the lessons learned in the storm's wake would shape the new era of exploration, unity, and vigilance, a dawn born from chaos, where silence was finally broken, and humanity's voice rang clear across the stars once more. The mimetic storm had passed, but the galaxy was forever changed, and as the first light of hope broke over the horizon, humanity stood at a crossroads unlike any in its long history, the ghosts of silence now giving way to a new era of voice and action aboard the UNES Eternity. Elias Cade and Captain Rokara looked out over the fleet that had rallied from the lost colonies and fractured alliances, a fragile but determined family bound by shared struggle and the burning need to rebuild. Yet beneath the surface of celebration and relief, deep uncertainties lingered about what kind of future awaited them. For the mimetic anomaly, though weakened, was not gone, and the scars left on minds and worlds ran deep. New leaders emerged from the ashes, scientists, diplomats, warriors, and survivors, each with visions for humanity's place among the stars. But with those visions came conflicts, old prejudices, and the challenge of uniting a scattered species whose past was defined by silence and whose future was now noisy with hope and fear. The Galactic Council, shattered and remade, faced its own reckoning, as reforms and reckonings began to reshape power structures, while whispers of conspiracy and hidden agendas reminded all that vigilance was a constant companion. Elias spearheaded efforts to establish a new human alliance, one built not on domination or fear, knowledge, respect, and the hard-earned wisdom of survival, traveling between worlds to forge bonds with colonies still hesitant. Each encounter a mix of old wounds and new dreams, as cultures mingled and blended, weaving a tapestry richer and more complex than any before. Aboard the Eternity, LYRA evolved, adapting her core programming to serve not just as guardian and guide, but as a symbol of humanity's resilience and creativity, bridging the gap between man and machine, a partner in the journey forward rather than a tool of control. But the mimetic anomaly's remnants still lurked in hidden pockets, dark corners of space and unexplored networks where its influence tried to gather strength, reminding all that peace was fragile and that the fight for humanity's soul was far from over. Young recruits trained in new schools on distant colonies, learning not just to wield weapons, but to understand the mind's power, mastering techniques to resist mimetic influence and to heal others touched by the storm's shadow. Stories spread of heroes and survivors, of quiet courage in the face of overwhelming odds, inspiring a generation to believe in something greater than themselves and in the bonds that tied them to one another. The lost colonies, once isolated worlds living in the shadow of Earth's memory, began to shine with new light, contributing knowledge, technology, and culture to the reborn human family, each bringing unique strengths to a collective future. As peace settled unevenly across the stars, Elias and Relkar reflected on the journey from silence to signal, from ghost ship to fleet, from scattered survivors to a united people, and they knew that the dawn of a new humanity was not just a moment in time, but a constant struggle to hold fast to hope, to fight against fear and darkness, and to claim the stars as a home for all who dared to dream in the quiet moments. Between missions, Elias found himself looking up at the endless sky with a sense of awe and humility, knowing that humanity's story was only just beginning, written not in silence but in voices raised together, echoing across the cosmos in a song of survival, unity, and unyielding spirit. The galaxy had barely begun to heal from the mimetic storm's devastating grasp when unsettling signs emerged that the darkness was far from gone. Across distant colonies and quiet space stations, strange Disturbances flickered in neural networks and communications, subtle at first, a missing transmission here, a confused mind there, but they grew steadily more alarming as reports flooded in of unexplained disappearances, sudden madness, and chilling whispers that seemed to echo through the very fabric of space itself. Aboard the U.N.S. Eternity, Elias Cade and Captain Relkar watched with growing unease as their hard-won peace teetered on the edge of collapse, knowing too well that the mimetic anomaly's shadow was a cunning enemy, capable of hiding in plain sight and striking when least expected. Wire of the ship's AI tirelessly scanned for traces of the anomaly's influence, but this time it moved with a different pattern, more subtle, more insidious, hiding in the cracks of data and the corners of minds, slipping past even her most sophisticated defenses. As Elias convened a secret council of trusted allies, they uncovered evidence pointing to a hidden faction within the Galactic Council itself, an underground group obsessed with reclaiming the mimetic anomaly's power, willing to risk reigniting the very storm they had all fought to quell. Tensions flared as the revelations spread, sowing distrust among allies and pushing old enemies to new alignments, while Elias and Relkar prepared a covert operation to root out this faction before their experiments unleashed chaos once again. But time was running out. The anomaly's resurgence triggered violent outbreaks on several colonies, plunging entire worlds into madness and despair, their populations fracturing into warring factions and desperate survivors. Amid this turmoil, Elias led his team deep into the heart of one such colony, a once thriving world, now silent save for the echoes of fractured minds and the hum of failing systems, where every shadow seemed to hide a threat and every whispered word could be laced with the anomaly's poisonous influence. Navigating through the ruins and infiltrating heavily guarded research stations, they discovered horrific experiments aimed at controlling the anomaly, using humans as test subjects in twisted attempts to weaponize its power. The cost had been devastating: minds shattered, bodies broken, and the mimetic influence growing stronger with every failed trial. As Elias confronted the faction's leaders in a tense standoff, he realized that the stakes were higher than ever before, not just for humanity but for all life connected by the fragile threads of peace and understanding. The battle that followed was fought not just with weapons but with willpower and resolve, as the Eternity's crew battled sabotage, ambushes, and the creeping madness threatening to consume them from within. With the help of LYRA's evolving defenses and the bravery of his allies, Elias managed to expose the faction's dark plans to the wider galaxy, sparking a desperate call for unity and vigilance. Yet, as the dust settled, it was clear that the mimetic anomaly was a persistent foe, one that would demand constant watchfulness, courage, and sacrifice to keep at bay, reminding all that event. In the brightest dawn, shadows could resurface, testing humanity's resolve and shaping its destiny among the stars. The galaxy's fragile peace hung by a thread as the fractures within the human alliance deepened. Colonies that once stood united against the mimetic storm now found themselves divided by suspicion, fear, and old wounds that refused to heal, the memories of silence and isolation weighing heavy on leaders who struggled to trust one another again. Aboard the U.N.S. Eternity, Elias Cade watched the tension grow like a slow-burning fire, knowing that if the alliance shattered now, all they had fought for would be lost. But the cracks were spreading. Messages intercepted hinted at sabotage, hidden agendas, and a restless faction that believed humanity should seize power rather than rebuild peacefully. And those whispers poisoned conversations in council chambers and command centers across star systems. Captain Relkar worked tirelessly to mediate disputes, holding tense negotiations where voices rose and fingers pointed, as former friends became wary adversaries, and every decision was shadowed by doubt. Meanwhile, LYRA detected strange interference in communication networks, subtle enough to suggest deliberate tampering, and Elias suspected that the remnants of the mimetic anomaly, or perhaps enemies exploiting its chaos, were fueling the distrust for their own ends. As the political storm brewed, Elias was forced to send emissaries to remote colonies where resentment simmered, their leaders unwilling to fully submit to the council's authority, demanding autonomy and accusing the central government of neglecting their needs during the crisis, leaving their people vulnerable to the anomaly's lingering effects. In one such colony, Elias faced a cold reception. where memories of abandonment and the horrors of the mimetic storm still haunted the streets and minds of survivors. And he realized that healing would require more than diplomacy. It would demand empathy, sacrifice, and perhaps new ways of thinking about governance and unity. Back aboard the Eternity, a devastating sabotage crippled key systems during a crucial summit meant to forge new treaties, plunging the fleet into chaos and suspicion as fingers once again turned inward, accusations flying as the search for the saboteur began. Tensions reached a breaking point when a trusted council member was revealed to have secret ties to extremist groups seeking to exploit the fractured alliance to seize control, forcing Elias and Relkar into a dangerous game of political and tactical maneuvers to contain the threat without igniting open conflict. Amid this turmoil, LYRA worked tirelessly to secure communications and analyze data, uncovering a pattern linking sabotage incidents to a shadowy organization operating in the void between star systems, whose true goals remained obscured but whose influence threatened to unravel all progress. As Elias delved deeper into this mystery, he uncovered unsettling truths about the lingering power of the mimetic anomaly and the ease with which it could manipulate fractured minds, proving that unity was humanity's strongest defense and its greatest vulnerability, with the fleet divided and the enemy exploiting every weakness. Elias knew the coming days would test every ounce of his leadership, courage, and hope, and that the future of humanity's new dawn depended on whether they could overcome their fractures before the darkness swallowed them whole. Deep within the uncharted reaches of the galaxy, rumors began to surface of ancient technologies buried beneath the ruins of a forgotten colony, machines and knowledge predating even the earliest days of humanity's silence. Artifacts said to hold the key to controlling or destroying the mimetic anomaly once and for all. Elias Cade received word from a scout vessel that had discovered strange energy signatures on a remote world, a planet long thought dead but now showing signs of life and strange structures half buried beneath the sands and ash. Sensing the importance of this discovery, Elias gathered a team of experts, including engineers, scientists, and historians, to lead an expedition aboard the Eternity, determined to uncover what lay hidden and prevent these powerful relics from falling into the wrong hands. As they approached the planet, their sensors picked up unstable energy fields and encrypted signals that suggested the anomaly's influence still lingered, twisting the environment and warping the very fabric of reality around them. Landing on the surface, the team stepped into a world frozen in time, where towering metallic spires pierced the skies and strange glyphs covered every surface, their meaning lost to memory, but pulsing with a faint, eerie glow that hinted at ancient power. While the team worked to decipher the technology, LYRA scanned tirelessly for threats, but the deeper they explored, the more dangerous their mission became. Machines activated with strange rhythms, sending pulses that disrupted their equipment and invaded their minds, stirring whispers of forgotten knowledge and forgotten madness. Tensions mounted as factions within the fleet vied for control of the discoveries, some believing these technologies could turn the tide against the mimetic anomaly, while others feared awakening a force beyond their understanding. Elias found himself caught between hope and caution, aware that one wrong move could unleash devastation greater than anything the galaxy had seen, yet knowing that to ignore this chance was to accept defeat. During a daring exploration deep beneath the surface, the team uncovered a central core, a massive device with circuitry that seemed almost alive, capable of amplifying mental energy but also dangerously unstable. As they worked to unlock its secrets, the anomaly's remnants struck back fiercely, causing hallucinations, sabotage, and a desperate fight for survival that tested every member's resolve and trust. In the heart of this ancient complex, Elias faced a choice: attempt to harness the power for humanity's salvation or destroy it to prevent another catastrophe. With the stakes higher than ever, alliances shifted and betrayals surfaced, as enemies hidden among them revealed their true intentions, forcing Elias and his team into a desperate battle not just for technology but for the very soul of their people. As the dust settled and the ancient machines fell silent, the expedition returned to the fleet with both hope and warning. The lost technologies held great promise, but also grave danger, and the path ahead demanded wisdom, unity, and the courage to face the shadows lurking in forgotten pasts, for only by mastering the lessons of what was lost could humanity hope to secure its future among the stars. The galaxy had barely recovered when a new kind of battle began. One fought not with guns or ships, but within the very minds of those who survived. The medic anomaly, thought to be weakened and controlled, had evolved into something more insidious, a force that crept into dreams, twisted memories, and turned thoughts into weapons against the self. Across multiple colonies, reports poured in of people collapsing into madness, their minds shattered by unseen forces that whispered terrible lies and stoked the deepest fears. Elias Cade understood this new war was the deadliest yet, for it struck at the core of human will and sanity, and no amount of armor or shields could protect against such an attack aboard the U.N.S. Eternity. LYRA worked tirelessly to develop neural shield technology, a kind of mental firewall designed to block the anomaly's invasive reach. But each test revealed how fast and adaptable the enemy was, exploiting even the smallest vulnerabilities as Elias and his team raced to deploy this defense. Colonies on the frontier were falling into chaos, entire populations succumbing to the anomaly's influence and turning violently against each other or retreating into catatonic states. The Eternity became a beacon of hope and a fortress against this invisible siege. But the crew knew the battle was as much psychological as physical, with trust fraying under the pressure and paranoia creeping into every decision. Amidst this turmoil, Elias led a special task force into a colony where the anomaly's grip was strongest, hoping to find a way to reverse the damage and reclaim lost minds. The team faced not only external dangers, but their own inner demons, as hallucinations and nightmares blurred the line between reality and illusion. Testing their loyalty and courage, LYRA's systems struggled to maintain control as the anomaly infiltrated communication links, sowing confusion and fear, while Elias fought to keep the team together and focused on their mission. Deep within the colony's Neural Research Center, they uncovered evidence of forbidden experiments attempting to harness the anomaly's power by linking minds directly, a cruel gamble that had only spread madness further. As the team raced to shut down the facility, they were confronted by survivors driven mad and controlled by the anomaly, their attacks unpredictable and deadly. The battle that followed was fought in narrow corridors and shadowed halls, each moment a fight for survival as Elias struggled to protect his people and contain the spreading chaos. With the neural shield finally deployed, small victories began to appear. Some victims regained clarity, memories returned, and hope flickered once more, but the cost was high, with many lost and minds forever changed. Elias realized that the mind's war was far from over, that the anomaly was a living enemy adapting constantly, and that victory would require not just technology, but understanding, compassion, and a new kind of strength. As the Eternity set course for the next troubled colony, the crew steeled themselves for the continuing fight, knowing that in this war of thoughts and shadows, the greatest weapon humanity had was the resilience of the human spirit and the will to never surrender. The aftermath of the mind's war left the galaxy scarred and shaken, but for many, the scars were more than just memories. They were a warning that survival meant change, and change meant moving beyond the old borders of human space into the unknown. With countless colonies devastated, entire populations displaced, and trust between worlds fragile at best, the Galactic Council faced a difficult decision. There was no turning back to the old ways, no hope in staying scattered and divided while the shadows of the mimetic anomaly still lurked in the dark corners of the cosmos. Thus began the new exodus, a mass movement of humanity away from the remnants of Familiar systems toward new star clusters where hope flickered like distant fires on the edge of night. Aboard the U.N.S. Eternity, Elias Cade oversaw this enormous operation, coordinating fleets of ships packed with survivors, scientists, engineers, and families, all carrying the weight of a future uncertain but full of promise. The challenge was immense, navigating through unexplored territories where dangers from rogue alien entities, environmental hazards, and remnants of the anomaly awaited, while maintaining the fragile unity of the migrating peoples who had endured so much division during the journey. Tensions flared between factions who wanted to return to the old ways of isolation and dominance, and those who believed that only united humanity could build a lasting home among the stars. Elias found himself mediating disputes, calming fears, and inspiring hope, knowing that the survival of their species depended on cooperation and trust more than ever before. LYRA's role was crucial, scanning ahead for threats, managing resources, and keeping the fleet connected across the vast emptiness of space. But as they ventured deeper into the unknown, strange signals began to appear, faint but persistent messages in ancient code, hinting at civilizations long gone or hidden technologies that could either aid or endanger their new beginning. On one mission to investigate these signals, a scout ship disappeared without a trace, fueling fears and dark rumors among the fleet. Yet Elias refused to succumb to despair. Instead, he pushed forward, believing that discovery and courage were the only way to break free from the past shadows. As the fleet reached a promising cluster of stars, they encountered other survivors, lost human colonies that had evolved separately, adapting in ways both familiar and alien, their cultures fractured but their spirits unbroken. The reunion was bittersweet, filled with joy, but also difficult questions about identity, loyalty, and what it truly meant to be human after centuries of silence and separation. Meanwhile, the threat of the mimetic anomaly had not vanished, manifesting in new and unexpected ways, pushing the Exodus fleet into battles that tested their resolve and unity. With every challenge, Elias and his allies learned that the new Exodus was more than just a physical journey. It was a journey of the soul, a quest to reclaim humanity's place in the cosmos, not through power or conquest, but through hope, understanding, and the willingness to face the unknown together. As new stars dawned on the horizon and fresh worlds awaited settlement, the people aboard the Eternity and their allies took their first steps toward a future they would shape with courage, wisdom, and the unyielding belief that even after silence and shadow, humanity's light could never be extinguished. After the hopeful new beginning of the Exodus, a chilling message shattered the fragile peace, an unknown signal originating from the depths of a starless void, a region long marked on maps only as the black silence where no ship had ever returned. Elias Cade and the crew of the U.N.S. Eternity were tasked with investigating this mysterious transmission that pulsed like a heartbeat in the cold emptiness, sending waves of dread through the fleet. The Heart of Darkness, as it was soon called, was more than just a place. It was a dark enigma that seemed to whisper to the fears buried deep within every human soul. As the Eternity approached the coordinates, sensors detected a massive structure, ancient and seemingly alive, looming like a giant shadow against the endless black. This place was unlike any technology they had seen, a fusion of organic and mechanical, twisted and corrupt, as if the mimetic anomaly had given form to a nightmare. The air inside the ship grew heavy with unease as the team prepared to board, each step echoing in corridors that seemed to warp space itself. LYRA warned of mental disruptions increasing among the crew, hallucinations that preyed on their darkest memories and insecurities. turning their minds into battlegrounds before the physical one had even begun. Elias led his team deeper into the labyrinthine complex, where rooms shifted and doors vanished, challenging their grip on reality. They discovered recordings from a lost human expedition, logs filled with desperation and fear, describing how the crew had succumbed to the anomaly's psychic attacks, fracturing their minds until only madness remained. As they delved further, the team uncovered a horrifying truth. The Heart of Darkness was a prison built by an ancient human civilization long before the Silence Vault designed to contain the mimetic anomaly. But it had failed, and the anomaly had turned it into a living nightmare. The facility was pulsing with unstable energy, threatening to tear apart the fabric of space and consciousness, and Elias realized that unless they could contain or destroy it, the entire Exodus fleet and perhaps all of humanity would be consumed by the darkness. But the anomaly was cunning, manifesting as shadows, whispers, and illusions that turned friends into enemies, forcing Elias to question whom he could trust. In a desperate battle of wills and survival, the crew fought not only external horrors, but the inner darkness growing within their own hearts. Each step forward, a struggle to hold on to their humanity. With time running out and the complex beginning to collapse, Elias made the impossible choice to activate an ancient failsafe that would trap the anomaly forever, but at the cost of losing the Eternity and his team within the heart of the void. As the countdown began, the crew shared moments of courage, hope, and farewell, understanding that this sacrifice might be the final price for a future free from the anomaly's shadow. In the last moments before the failsafe triggered, a blinding light surged through the darkness, and then silence and eerie quiet where the stars seemed to hold their breath. When communication was restored days later, faint signals indicated a new light far beyond the darkness, a spark of life and hope, proving that even in the heart of the deepest darkness, the spirit of humanity could not be extinguished. Elias's sacrifice became legend, a beacon reminding all that the greatest battles are fought not only in the stars, but within the heart, and that even when facing the darkest shadows, courage and unity could light a path to dawn. The remnants of humanity, scattered and battered by wars of mind and matter, faced a crossroads unlike any before. On one path lay unity, the fragile weaving together of shattered worlds, minds, and hopes. On the other, oblivion, the slow fading into silence and despair that had haunted human history for millennia. The U.N.S. Eternity, now a symbol of survival and resilience, carried not just refugees but the heavy weight of a future balanced on the edge of a knife. Elias Cade's sacrifice at the heart of darkness was still fresh in the hearts of many, a painful reminder of what was lost and what could still be saved. Across the fleet, debates raged in council chambers and crowded stations. Some demanded strict control, fearing that without order humanity would tear itself apart, while others called for freedom and trust, arguing that only together could they build a new civilization free of old mistakes. Tensions rose as new factions emerged, each with their own vision for the future, threatening to ignite conflicts that could undo all progress. Meanwhile, strange disturbances began to ripple through space. Subtle at first, a flicker in communications, a shift in star charts, an inexplicable change in the behavior of nearby alien species. LYRA sensors detected fluctuations in the very fabric of reality. Hints that remnants of the mimetic anomaly might still linger, lurking in shadows unseen and minds unguarded. As the fleet approached the star system designated as the site for humanity's next great settlement, rumors spread of hidden saboteurs, agents who sought to use fear and chaos to their advantage, hoping to seize power amid the uncertainty. Elias's closest allies, Now leaders in their own right worked tirelessly to uncover these threats, navigating a maze of espionage, paranoia, and fragile alliances. The discovery of an ancient artifact aboard a derelict ship only deepened the mystery, a device capable of amplifying thoughts and emotions across light years. A powerful tool that could unite minds or destroy them if wielded recklessly. Technology in hand, the leaders faced a desperate choice: to use it as a means of forging unprecedented unity through shared understanding, or risk plunging humanity into deeper chaos by losing control over their own minds. As factions clashed over the artifact's fate, a wave of coordinated attacks struck the fleet's communication hubs, nearly severing ties between ships and colonies, pushing the fragile alliance to the brink of collapse. In the midst of this crisis, Elias's Pro-G, Captain Moravos, stepped forward with a bold plan to link willing minds in a collective consciousness, a network to share knowledge, memories, and emotions in real time, hoping this unprecedented step could finally heal centuries of division. The experiment was perilous, as the risk of mimetic infection and mental overload loomed large, but many volunteered, driven by a desperate hope that unity might still be achieved without losing what made them human. As the network came online, waves of shared experience washed over the participants' pain, joy, fear, and hope, mingled in a vast mental tapestry that revealed the true depths of humanity's strength and fragility. Outside forces, sensing this new power, launched assaults meant to shatter the fragile link and plunge the fleet into darkness. But the united minds stood firm, using their shared focus to repel attacks and restore communication. Through this collective mind, humanity glimpsed a future where diversity was strength, where old wounds could heal, and where the memory of silence and shadow would serve as a guide rather than a chain. Yet the choice remained: would this unity hold, forging a new civilization capable of facing the unknown, or would fear, mistrust, and old hatreds tear them apart, sending humanity back into oblivion? As the stars aligned to welcome a new dawn, the people of the fleet understood that the true battle was not against external enemies, but the inner struggle to choose connection over division, hope over despair, and unity over oblivion. The journey was far from over, but for the first time in thousands of years, humanity stood together, not as scattered ghosts lost in silence, but as a shining beacon reaching boldly into the vastness of space.